Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that welcome and that introduction. This hall is absolutely packed here today in Liverpool, and we've even got an overspill down the road. I want to say thank you to everyone that's here today. I want also, before I go into my speech, to say a huge thank you to all the staff of this conference centre that have made us so welcome and worked so hard here today. I want to say thank you to all of our Labour Party staff for all the huge work they've put in for this conference today and all the other days. And I want to say a big thank you to my own staff in my own office in the constituency and in Parliament for the huge work and support they give me and give our party all the year round. But I've got to slightly correct myself because I did say the hall is completely packed. Well, I got a message on the way in from Virgin Trains. They have assured me there are 800 empty seats in the hall. Either way, conference, it's a huge pleasure to be holding our party's annual conference at this fantastic city. The city of Liverpool that shaped our country, our economy, our culture, and our music. Liverpool has always been central to the Labour Party and our movement. And I know some people say campaigns and protests don't change things. But the Hillsborough families have shown just how wrong that is. It's taken 27 years, but those families have shown with great courage and dignity, finally, that you can get truth and justice for the 96 who died. I want to pay tribute to all of the families and campaigners for their solidarity, their commitment, and their love. Thank you. And as Andy Burnham put it to conference this morning, we must learn from them. And we promise those campaigning for justice, for Orgreave, for Shrewsbury, for the thousands of workers blacklisted for being trade unionists, we will support your battles for truth and justice. And when we return to government, we will make sure you have both. Because winning justice for all and changing society for the benefit of all is the heart of what Labour is about. So yes, our party is about campaigning and it's about protest too. But most of all, it's about winning power in local and national government to deliver the real change our country so desperately needs. That's why the central task of the whole Labour Party must be to rebuild trust and support to win the next general election. And form the next government. That is the government I'm determined to lead to win power to change for Britain for the benefit of working people. But every one of us in this hall today knows that we will only get there if we work together. And I think it's fair to say, after what we've been through these past few months, it hasn't always been exactly the case. Those months have been a testing time for the whole party. First, the horrific murder of Joe Cox, followed by the shock of the referendum results, and then the tipping over of divisions in Parliament into the leadership contest that ended last Saturday. Joe's killing was a hate-filled attack on democracy, that shocked the whole country. Jo Cox didn't just believe in loving her neighbour. She believed in loving her neighbour's neighbour and that every life counted. And as Jo said in her maiden speech as an MP, we have far more in common with each other than things that divide us. Let that essential truth guide us as we come together again to challenge this Tory government and its shaky grip on power. In Jo's memory, thanks for everything she did, and thanks to her family and all her close friends for all they've been through and the solidarity they've shown together, so we may all learn from her life. We've also lost good MPs like Michael Meacher and Harry Harpham, both good friends of mine. They were Labour through and through, passionate campaigners for a better world. But let me also pay a particular tribute to those parliamentary colleagues who stepped forward in the summer to fill the gaps in the shadow cabinet. and ensure that Labour could function as an effective opposition in Parliament. They actually didn't seek office, but they stepped up when their party, and in fact the country, needed them to serve. They all deserve the respect and gratitude of our party and movement, and this conference should thank them today. They are our future. We've just had our second leadership election within a year. It had its fraught moments, of course, not only for Owen Smith and me, and I hope we don't make a habit of it. But there have also been some upsides to it. Over 150,000 new members have joined our party. Young rising stars have shone on the front bench, and we found that the party is more united on policy than we would ever have guessed. I'm honoured, deeply honoured, to have been re-elected by our party a second time with an even bigger mandate. But we all have lessons to learn and a responsibility to do things better and to work together more effectively. I will lead in learning those lessons. And I'd like to thank Owen too for the campaign and for his work as Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary. And also, of course, to the Labour Party staff, our own teams, and the brilliant teams that support all of our members of Parliament and our party around the country. One lesson is that there is a responsibility on all of us to take care with our rhetoric. Respect democratic decisions, respect our differences, and respect each other. We know that robust debate has at times spilled over into abuse and hate around our country, including misogyny and anti-Semitism, especially on social media. Let me make it clear, that is utterly unacceptable. Our party must be a safe and welcoming space for everybody. We will continue to take firm action against abuse and intimidation. And let me be absolutely clear, anti-Semitism is an evil. It led to the worst crimes of the 20th century. Every one of us has a responsibility to ensure that it is never allowed to fester in our society again. This party always has and always will fight against prejudice and hatred of Jewish people with every breath in our body. We meet this year as the largest political party in Western Europe, with over 500,000 members, campaigning in every community in Britain. More people have joined our party in the last 20 months than in the previous 20 years. We have more of our fellow citizens in our party than all the other political parties in Britain put together. Some may see this as a threat, but I see it as a vast democratic resource. Our hugely increased membership is part of a movement that can take Labour's message into every community and win support for the election of a Labour government. Each and every one of these new members is welcome in our party. And after a 10-year absence, we welcome back the Fire Brigades Union into our party and to our conference. We are reuniting the Labour family, but I want to also, if I may, to say thank you to all of the firefighters and indeed all of the public sector workers who worked so hard to save people during the floods last winter. Thank you for everything you did. And over the past year, we've shown what Labour can do when the party stands together. At conference a year ago, I launched our campaign against cuts to tax credits, and we succeeded in knocking this government back. This year, 3 million families are over £1,000 better off because Labour stood together. In the budget, the government tried to take away billions from disabled people, but we defeated them on that. And we won all 4 parliamentary by-elections, and I welcome our new colleagues into Parliament and the great victories they achieved. In the May elections, we overtook the Tories to become the largest party nationally. We won back London with a massive win for Sadiq Khan, the first Muslim mayor of a Western capital city. My congratulations, Sadiq, for that incredible win. And we won the Bristol mayor for the first time, Marvin Rees, the first black mayor of any European city. My congratulations to Marvin. And we also won the mayoralty in Salford and, of course, right here in Liverpool. Congratulations. That's the road of advance we have to return to if we're going to challenge the Tories for power and turn the huge growth in the Labour Party into electoral support we need right across Britain. There is no doubt that my election as Labour leader a year ago and re-election this month grew out of a thirst for a new kind of politics and a conviction that the old way of running the economy in the country isn't delivering for more and more people. It's not, I promise you, about me, of course, or unique to Britain. But across Europe and North America and elsewhere, people are fed up with a so-called free market system that has produced grotesque inequality, stagnating living standards, and many calamitous foreign wars without end, and a political stitch-up which leaves the vast majority of people shut out of power. Since the crash of 2008, the demand for an alternative and an end to counterproductive austerity has led to the rise of new movements and parties in one country after another. But in Britain, it's happened in a different way, in the heart of traditional politics in the Labour Party, which is something that we should be extremely proud of. It's exactly what Labour was founded for, to be the voice of the many, of social justice and progressive change from the bottom up. But it also means it's no good harking back to the tired old economic and political fixes of 20 and 30 years ago, because they won't work anymore. The old model is broken. We're in a new era that demands a politics and economics that meets the needs of our own time. Actually, even Theresa May gets it, sort of, that people want change. That's why she stood on the steps of Downing Street and talked about the inequalities and burning injustice in today's Britain. Well, she said it. In fact, she promised a country that works not for a privileged few, but for every one of us. But even if she manages to talk the talk, there are problems about walking the walk. This isn't a new government. It's David Cameron's government repackaged with progressive slogans, but with a new, harsh, right-wing edge, taking the country backwards and dithering before the historic challenges of Brexit. Who seriously believes that the Tories could ever stand up to the privileged few? They are the party of the privileged few. Funded by the privileged few, for the benefit of the privileged few. Theirs is a party, after all, that now wants to force through an undemocratic boundary review based on an out-of-date version of the electoral register with nearly 2 million voters missing. They've dressed it up as a bid to cut the cost of politics by abolishing 50 constituencies, but the 12 million savings are dwarfed by the expense of the 260 peers David Cameron appointed at a cost of £34 million a year. It's nothing more than a cynical attempt to gerrymander the next election. And this is from a Prime Minister who was elevated to a job without a single vote being cast after a pantomime farce which saw one leading Tory after another falling on their swords. When I meet Theresa May across the dispatch box, I know that only one of us has been elected to the office they hold by the votes of 1/3 people. In any case, the Tories are simply incapable of responding to the breakdown of the old economic model, because that failed model is absolutely in their political DNA. It's what they deliver every time they're in government. Tory governments deregulate, they outsource, privatise, and they stand by as inequality grows. They've cut taxes for the privileged few, sold off our national assets to them, always on the cheap, and turned a blind eye to their chronic tax avoidance. They're so committed to the interests of the very richest, they've recruited Sir Philip Green into government as something called an efficiency czar. I'm not quite sure what an efficiency czar does, but I would simply say this. Well, government might be a bit more efficient if the super rich like Sir Philip actually paid their taxes. When government steps back, there are consequences for every one of us. Look what's happened to housing under the Tories. House building has fallen to the lowest level since the 1920s, nearly a century ago. Home ownership is falling as more people are priced out of the market. Evictions and, disgracefully, homelessness and rough sleeping go up month after month, year after year. Council homes are being sold off without being replaced. And another consequence of that is that we, all of us, are paying over £9 billion a year to private landlords in housing benefit to pay the rent. Instead of spending public money on building council housing, we're subsidising private landlords. That's wasteful, inefficient, and frankly, poor government. So Labour will, as Theresa Pearce said, build over 1 million new homes, at least half of them council homes. And we will control private rents so we can give every British family that basic human right, a decent home. It's the same in the jobs market. Without proper employment regulation, there's been an explosion of temporary, insecure jobs. Nearly 1 million people on zero-hours contracts, not knowing what their earnings are going to be. There are now 6 million working people earning less than the living wage, and the poverty amongst those in work is at record levels. That didn't happen by accident. The Tories have torn up employment rights and deliberately tried to weaken the organisations that get people justice at work, the trade unions. Of course, trade unions are not taking this lying down. Look at the great campaign Unite has waged at Sport Direct to get justice for exploited workers and hold Mike Ashley to account. That is why Labour will repeal the Trade Union Act and set unions free to do their jobs defending and supporting their members and rights at work. And we will raise the minimum wage to a real living wage that brings working people out of poverty and will ban zero-hours contracts. As John McDonnell, our Shadow Chancellor, and Ian Lavery set this out very clearly at conference this week. And then there's the scandal of the privatised railways. More public subsidy than under the days of British Rail. All going to private firms, and more delays, more cancellations, and on top of that, the highest fares in Europe. That's why the great majority of British people back Labour's plan, set out so well by Andy McDonnell this week, to take the railways back into public ownership. But if you want the most spectacular example of what happens when government steps back, the global banking crash is an object lesson. A deregulated industry of out-of-control greed and speculation that crashed economies across the globe and required the biggest ever government intervention and public bailout in history. Millions of ordinary families paid the price of that failure. I pledge that Labour will never let a few reckless bankers wreck our economy again. So Labour is offering solutions. During this summer's leadership campaign, I set out 10 pledges which I believe can be the platform of our party's programme at the next election. They were put to conference yesterday in an NEC statement. They lay out the scope of the change we need to see for full employment, a homes guarantee, security at work, a strong public national health service and social care, a national education service for all, action on climate change, public ownership and control of our services, a cut in inequality of income and wealth, action to secure an equal society, and peace and justice at the heart of our foreign policy. Don't worry, conference, they're not the 10 Commandments. I haven't come down from the mountain with them. They are here already, and they will now, of course, go to the National Policy Forum, and the whole party needs to build on them. All our brilliant members have ideas, imagination, inspiration. We want to hear them. We want them to help in refining those policies. And above all, take them out to the people of this country. Take them out so that we get support on them. But those 10 pledges, the core of the platform which I was re-elected, will now form the framework of what Labour will campaign for and for what a Labour government will do. Together, they show the direction of change we are determined to take and outline a programme to rebuild and transform Britain. They are rooted in traditional Labour values and objectives, but they are shaped to meet the challenges of the 21st century. They are values Labour is united on. They reflect the views and aspirations of the majority of our people, and they are values our country can and will support as soon as they are given the chance to do it. These pledges are not just words. Already across the country, Labour councils are putting Labour values into action in a way that makes a real difference to millions of people, despite cynical government funding cuts that have hit Labour councils, often representing the poorest parts of the country, 5 times as hard as Tory-run areas. Good examples like Nottingham City Council setting up the not-for-profit Robin Hood Energy Company to provide affordable energy. Or Cardiff Bus Company taking 100,000 passengers every day, publicly owned, with a passenger panel to hold its directors to account. Or Preston Council working to favour local procurement and keep money in the town. Or Newcastle Council providing free Wi-Fi in 69 public buildings across the city. Or Croydon Council, which has set up a company to build 1,000 new homes. And as Councillor Alison Butler said, we can no longer afford to sit back and let the market take its course. Or Glasgow, that has established high-quality and flexible workplaces for start-up, high-growth companies in dynamic new sectors. Or right here in Liverpool, set to be at the global forefront of a new wave of technology, the home to Sensor City, a £15 million business hub that aims to create 300 start-up businesses and 1,000 jobs over the next decade. And there are many other examples. It's a proud Labour record. Each and every Labour councillor deserves our heartfelt thanks for the work they do and the difficulties they endure in doing it. But I want to go further, because we want local government to go further and put public enterprise back into the heart of our economy and services to meet the needs of local communities. Municipal socialism for the 21st century as an engine of local growth and development. That's why I'm announcing that Labour will remove the artificial borrowing cap and allow councils to borrow against their housing stock. That single measure alone would allow them to build an extra 12,000 council homes a year. Labour councils increasingly have a policy of an in-house as the preferred provider, and many councils have brought bin collections, cleaners and IT services back in-house, insourcing privatised contracts to save money for council taxpayers and ensure good terms and conditions for their staff. I have said that Labour will put security at work and employment and union rights from day one centre stage. But 1 in 6 workers in Britain are now self-employed. They're right to value their independence, but for too many it comes with insecurity and a woeful lack of rights. So we will review arrangements for self-employed people, including social security that self-employed people pay for in their taxes, yet aren't fully covered by it. We will ensure that successful innovators have access to the finance necessary to take their ideas to the next level, grow their businesses, and generate employment. So as part of our Workplace 2020 review, we will make sure that our tax and social security arrangements are fit for the 21st century, consulting with self-employed workers and the Federation of Small Businesses. If the Tories are the party of cuts and short-termism, Labour is the party of investing for the future. With the same level of investment as other major economies, we could be so much more, unlock so much skill, ingenuity and wealth. That's why we'll establish a national investment bank at the heart of our plan to rebuild and transform this country. And we will borrow to invest at historically low interest rates to generate far greater returns. It would be foolish not to, because that investment is expanding the economy and the income it generates for us all in the process. Even this government, after years of austerity and savage cuts, is starting to change its tune. I'm not content with accepting second-class broadband, not content with creaking railways, not content with seeing the United States and Germany investing in cutting-edge and green technologies while we lag behind. Last year, for example, the Prime Minister promised a universal service obligation for 10 megabyte broadband. But since then, the government has done nothing, letting down entrepreneurs, businesses and families, especially those in rural areas that want to grow their economy. That's why we've set out proposals for a national investment bank with $500 billion of investment to bring our broadband, our railways, our housing and our energy infrastructure up to scratch. A country that doesn't invest is a country that has given up, that has taken the path of managed decline. A Labour government will never accept second best for this country. Our country's history is based on individual ingenuity and collective endeavour. We're the country of Ada Lovelace, Alan Turing, Tim Berners-Lee, Isambard Kingdom-Brunel, Sarah Guppy, George Stephenson, Eric Laithwaite, brilliant people that made so much and developed so much. But the Tories have turned their back on this proud British tradition. They've put privatisation and cutting spending first. Britain now spends less on research as a share of national income than France, Germany, the US and China. A Labour government will bring research and development up to 3% of GDP. Yesterday, Rebecca Long-Bailey set out the terms of our industrial strategy review. We need an economy that works for every part of this country so that no community is left behind. And today, I'm asking everyone, businesses, academics, workers, trade unions, and anyone who cares about our future prosperity to have a say in that review. We're a wealthy country, and not just in terms of money. We're rich in talent, rich in potential. That's why we've proposed a comprehensive national education service at the heart of our programme for government to deliver high-quality education for all throughout our lives. Education has always been a core Labour value. From the time of Ellen Wilkinson, the MP for Jarrow and later Education Minister, and before that. And a national education service will be an essential part of the 21st century welfare state. In a rapidly changing economy, people need to retrain or upgrade their skills without falling into debt. Britain already lags behind others in productivity. Partly, that's about investing in technology and infrastructure. And partly, it's about investing in people and their skills. How can we build and expand the sectors of the future without a skilled workforce? But this Conservative government has slashed adult education budgets, taking away opportunities for people to develop their skills and leaving businesses struggling to find the skilled workforce they need to succeed. So today, I'm offering business a new settlement, a new deal to rebuild Britain. Under Labour, we will provide the investment to rebuild Britain's infrastructure. We will fund that investment because it will lead to a more productive economy, providing the basis on which our economy and our businesses can thrive, helping to provide over 1 million good jobs and opportunities for businesses. But investment in capital must include investment in human capital, the skilled workers needed to make our economy a success. So this is the deal Labour will offer to business. To help pay for a national education service, we'll ask you to pay a little more in tax. We've already started to set out some of this, pledging to raise corporation tax by less than 1.5% to give an education maintenance allowance to college students, grants to university students, so that every young learner can afford to support themselves as they develop skills and get qualifications. Business shares in economic success, and it must contribute to it too. And I recognise that good businesses deserve a level playing field. So I also pledge to good businesses that we will clamp down on those that dodge their taxes. You should not be undercut by those that don't play by the rules. There is nothing more unpatriotic than not paying your taxes. Frankly, it's an act of vandalism, damaging our National Health Service, damaging older people's social care, damaging younger people's education. So a Labour government will make the shabby tax avoidance a thing of the past. Our National Education Service is going to be every bit as vital as our National Health Service has become. And we recognise that education isn't simply about preparing for the workplace. It's also about exploration of knowledge and unlocking the creativity that's there in every human being. So all school pupils should have the chance to learn an instrument, take part in drama and dance, have regular access to a theatre, gallery, museum in their local area. So that's why we will introduce an arts pupil premium to every primary school in England and Wales and consult on the design and national rollout to extend this pupil premium to all secondary schools. This will be a 160 million boost to schools to invest in projects that will support cultural activities for schools over the longer term. It could hardly be more different from the Tory approach to education. Their only plan is the return of grammar schools, segregation, and second-class schooling for the majority. And what a great job Angela Rayner is doing in opposing them in this. So this Saturday, 1st of October, I want you to take this message into your community, that Labour is standing up for education for all. Grammar schools are not the only way the Tories are bringing division back into our society. They're also using the tried and tested tricks of demonising and scapegoating to distract from their failures. Whether it's single mothers, unemployed people, disabled people or migrants, Tory failure is always someone else's fault. And those smears have consequences, from children being bullied in school to attacks on the street, such as the rise in disability hate crime. I'm so proud of this party. In the last year, we stood up to the government on cuts to disabled people's benefits and cuts to working families' tax credits. And on Monday, our Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary, Debbie Abrahams, announced we would be scrapping the punitive sanctions regime and the degrading work capability assessment. As politicians, as political activists, as citizens, we have zero tolerance towards those who whip up hate and division. Stand together against racism, Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, and defend those being demonised. It's been shaming to our multicultural society that assaults on migrants have increased sharply since the referendum campaign, a campaign that peddled myths and whipped up division. It isn't migrants that drive down wages, it's exploitative employers and the politicians who deregulate the labour market and rip up trade union rights. It isn't migrants who put a strain on our National Health Service. It only keeps going because of the migrant nurses and doctors who come here, filling the gaps left by politicians who failed to invest in training. It isn't migrants that have caused a housing crisis. It's a Tory government that's failed to build homes. Immigration can certainly put extra pressure on services. That's why, under Gordon Brown, Labour set up the Migrant Impact Fund to provide extra funding to communities that have the largest rises in populations. Good plan. Very effective. What did the Tories do? They abolished it. Then they demonise the migrants for putting pressure on services. A Labour government will not offer false promises on immigration, as the Tories have done. We will not sow division by fanning the flames of fear. We will tackle the real issues of immigration instead, whatever the eventual outcome of Brexit negotiations, and make the changes that are needed. We will act decisively to end the undercutting of workers' pay and conditions through the exploitation of migrant labour and agency working, which would reduce the number of migrant workers in the process. And we will ease the pressure on hard-pressed public services that are struggling to absorb Tory austerity cuts in communities absorbing new populations. Labour will reinstate the Migrant Impact Fund and give extra support to areas of high migration, using the visa levy for its intended purpose. And we'll add a citizenship application fee levy to boost the fund. That is the Labour way to tackle social tension, investment and assistance, not racism and division. This party campaigned hard to remain in the European Union, and I spoke at rallies from Cornwall to Aberdeen for our Labour campaign to remain and reform. But although most Labour voters backed us, we did not convince millions of natural Labour voters, especially in those parts of the country left behind. Left behind by years of neglect, underinvestment and deindustrialisation. Now we have to face the future together. We're not helped by patronising or lecturing those in our communities who voted to leave. We have to hear their concerns about jobs, public services, wages, immigration, a future for their children. And we have to respect their votes and the decision of the British people. Of course, that does not mean giving a blank cheque to Theresa May and her three-legged team of fractious Brexiteers as they work up a negotiating plan, but it's unfortunately they have a distraction from that because they have to squabble about whose turn it is to go to Chevening country retreat each weekend. We've made it clear that we will resist a Brexit at the expense of workers' rights and social justice. We've set out our red lines on employment, environmental and social protection, and on access to the European market. But we will also be pressing our own Brexit agenda, including the freedom to intervene in our own industries like steel, without the obligation to liberalise or privatise public services. And building a new relationship with Europe based on cooperation and internationalism. And as Europe faces the impact of a refugee crisis fueled by wars across the Middle East, we have to face the role that repeated military interventions by British and other governments have played in that crisis. The Chilcot report made absolutely clear the lessons to be learned from the disastrous invasion and occupation of Iraq, just as this month, the Foreign Affairs Select Committee report into the war in Libya demonstrated. Those lessons have still to be learned a decade later. The consequences of those wars have been a spread of terrorism and sectarianism and violence across an arc of conflict that has displaced millions of people, forcing them from their countries. That's why I believe it was right to apologise on behalf of the party for the Iraq war. Right to say that we learned the lessons. And right to say that such a catastrophe must never be allowed to happen again. We need a foreign policy based on peace, justice and human rights. And I tell you this today, what great news it is to hear the peace treaty that's been agreed in Colombia after 50 years of devastating war. And we need to honour our international treaty obligations on nuclear disarmament as much as we do on human rights and other things, and encourage others to do the same. But we're a long way from that humanitarian vision. Britain continues to sell arms to Saudi Arabia, a country the United Nations says is committing repeated violations of international humanitarian law, war crimes in Yemen. And on Sunday, it was good to stand alongside the Yemeni community here in Liverpool, who endorsed our call to end those arms sales to Saudi Arabia. Just as the war crimes that are going on in other places, such as Syria, there has to be a political solution to the conflicts. So today, I make it clear that under a Labour government, when there are credible reports of human rights abuses or war crimes being committed, British arms sales will be suspended, starting with Saudi Arabia. Last year, the votes we needed to win power went many different ways in all parts of our country, while millions of our potential voters stayed at home. Many didn't believe that we offered an alternative that they wanted. It's true, there is an electoral mountain to climb. But if we focus everything on the needs and aspirations of middle and lower income voters, of ordinary families, if we demonstrate we've got a viable alternative to the government's failed economic policies, I'm convinced, absolutely convinced, we can build the electoral support that can beat the Tories. This means being the voice of women, of young people and pensioners, middle and lower income workers, the unemployed, the self-employed, minority communities, and those struggling with the impact of migration at work, and everyone struggling to get on and secure a better life for themselves, their families and their communities. Running like a golden thread through Labour's vision for today, as throughout our history, is the struggle for equality. Rampant inequality has become the great scandal of our time, sapping the potential of our society, tearing at its fabric. Labour's goal isn't just greater equality of wealth and income, it's also about power. Our aim could not be more ambitious. We want a new settlement for the 21st century, in politics, in business, our communities, with the environment and in our relations with the rest of the world. Every one of us in the Labour Party is motivated by the gap of what our country is and what it could be. We know that in the 6th largest economy in the world, the food banks, stunted life chances and growing poverty alongside wealth on an undreamt of scale are a mark of a shameful and totally unnecessary failure. We know how great this country could be for all its people with a new political and economic settlement, with new forms of democratic public ownership driven by investment in the technology and industries of the future, with decent jobs, education and housing for all, with local services run by and for people, not outsourced to faceless corporations. This is not backward-looking, this is very much the opposite. It's the socialism of the 21st century. Our job is now to win over the unconvinced of our vision. Only that way can we secure the Labour government we need. And let's be frank, no one will be convinced of a vision promoted by a divided party. We all agree on that. So I ask each and every one of you to accept the decision of the members, end the trench warfare, and work together to take on the Tories. Conference, anything else is a luxury that the millions of people who depend on Labour cannot afford. We know there'll be local elections next May. In Scotland, where we won 3 council by-elections this summer. In Wales, thank you Labour Scotland. And in Wales and across the counties in England. And there'll be Metro Mayor elections too, including right here on Merseyside, where my good friend Steve Rotherham will be standing as Labour's candidate. Steve, best of luck. I'll miss your comradeship, your humour, your criticism, and your wonderful support. And on the same day, we're going to be electing Andy Burnham in Manchester and Sean Simon in Birmingham. Three big Labour victories on the same day. Are we agreed on that? But, there's always a but, isn't there? We could also face a general election next year. Whatever the Prime Minister says about snap elections, there is every chance that Theresa May will cut and run for an early election. So today we put ourselves on notice. Labour is preparing for a general election in 2017. And we hope and expect all our members to support our campaign. We will be ready for the challenge whenever it comes. Let's do it. Let's do it and be ready for that challenge. Let's do it in the spirit of the great Scots-born Liverpool football manager, Bill Shankly. Sorry, Andy, I know Andy's an Everton supporter, but don't go, don't leave. Stay. You're going to like it, Andy, it's okay. The socialism I believe in is everybody working for the same goal and everybody having a share in the rewards. That's how I see football, and that's how I see life. We're not all Bill Shanklys. Each of us comes to our socialism from our own experiences. Mine was shaped by my mum and dad, a teacher and an engineer, both very committed socialists and peace campaigners. My mum's inspiration was to encourage girls to believe they could achieve anything in their lives. And I've met some of the pupils she taught. She inspired so many girls to take up science and engineering because of her example. And in my experience, working as a volunteer teacher in Jamaica when I was a young man taught me so much about the strength of communities, living in adversity and showing the most amazing solidarity to each other in poverty and in remote communities, and determined to achieve something collectively good for their entire community. And later, I spent years as a union organiser in the National Union of Public Employees, representing low-paid workers, fighting for the national minimum wage, fighting for decent wages and conditions. Unions make us strong, but also it's the determination of people to be strong for themselves and, above all, strong for each other that shapes my politics, shapes my ideas, and shapes my values. As the great American poet Langston Hughes put it, I see that my own hands can make the world that's in my mind. Everyone here and every one of our hundreds of thousands of members has something to contribute to our cause. That's why we will unite. Build on our policies, take our vision out to a country crying out for change. We are 500,000 of us, and there will be many more, working together to make our country the place it could be. Conference, united, we can shape the future and build a fairer Britain in a peaceful world. Thank you.